Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat. Ako po si Christian Esguera and welcome to our special Facts First episode ngayong araw na ito. We are conducting this episode or this interview. We will conduct this interview in a matter of minutes pero bigyan ko lang po kayo ng timestamp. No? So today is 9:35 a.m. in Manila. And gabi po doon sa Washington DC kung saan nandun po yung ating makakausap or special guest for today or for tonight dahil po pinarood nyo na po itong episode na ito, gabi po. And we are having this episode on January 24, 2025. It's a Friday. Ano po bang pag-uusapan natin? Alam ko po marami po sa atin ang very interested dito po sa development sa United States, especially after the assumption to office again ni President Donald Trump. Okay, marami po siya mga pronouncements. It was actually a very busy, very furious first day for the US President when it comes to a host of issues, including immigration. Okay, so alam ko marami po sa inyo nagtatanong, how would this immigration policy by the US President affect Filipinos there in the United States? Kukuha po tayo ng update dyan. And of course, pag-uusapan po natin itong issue sa South China Sea and how the United States would intend to keep its ironclad support for the Philippines when it comes to the threat or worsening threat coming from China dito po sa South China Sea or our West Philippine Sea. I'd like to welcome to our program si Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez. Magandang gabi po. Magandang umaga po, Ambassador. And thank you for joining us again dito sa Facts First.
Magandang umaga sa iyo, Christian. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay. Marami po tayong pag-uusapan, Ambassador. Pero una-una, kumustahin ko kayo. It's been a while since we last saw each other in person. Kumusta po ba kayo dyan sa Washington?
Well, ito, buhay pa at malamig dito sa Washington ngayon. We've had below zero for a number of days. And you can imagine when I attended the inauguration of President Trump, naglakad kami ng konti papasok to sa Capitol. Pero the other events that I attended, medyo mahaba yung lakad namin maski na we're in the diplomatic corps dahil sa security.
I can only imagine how cold. Although may nakita ako isang US Senator, di ba? He attended the affair. Naka gym clothes, naka shorts and sweater.
Siguro galing sa Alaska yun or somewhere. But this is nothing to them.
Okay. Sige ba, pag-usapan natin ito. Una, I think you had the chance to meet with the US President before his actual inauguration. You visited or you called on him sa Florida. Can you talk about it po?
Well, actually, I didn't really call on him. Meron akong kaibigan, a businessman who's also a friend of President Trump. Inimbita niya ako mag-golf sa Trump International Golf Course sa West Palm Beach, which is right next to Mar-a-Lago. And of course, President Trump plays there almost every day, especially during the holidays. And he told me that he already told President Trump that I was going to be playing there. So he knew that I was going to be seeing President Trump. So after our golf game, nandun si President Trump. He was of course sitting down with some of his friends. And then shortly before that I came, my friend said that, well, you know, the ambassador, and I told the former president that I presented my credentials to him in 2017. And he said, yes, I know you've been here for such a long time. I said, yes. And so we just proceeded to just exchange pleasantries. I told him, actually, a majority of Filipino Americans voted for you, Mr. President. Which is true. A large number of Filipino Americans actually voted for President Trump in this election. And then I told him that he was extremely popular with the Filipinos. And he went on to say that he had talked to President Marcos, that they had a pleasant conversation. And of course, when I told him that I was related to the president, he says, you're a beautiful family. He remembers Mrs. Imelda Marcos, whom he knew in New York during the old days, where they used to be in a party, for instance, of Cindy Adams, a famous columnist from New York. So it was a pleasant one, and I quite honestly, President Trump is not what people think he is, because he's a pretty jolly person, I might add.
In person?
In person, yes.
Okay, kasi of course, most of the impressions that people create of him are based on what they see in public. And
Well,
nakakatakot, especially
I
for a lot of people, yung mga pronouncement siya. Pero in person, how would you describe him?
well,
Uh,
I think that
Casual.
any person that vies for a position as president of the United States, it's a matter of having comes out with a personality, of which that is really the personality, I suppose, of President Trump, because of being a businessman in New York. He's a hardball player, so to speak. So that's why when he comes out, he really says it like it is.
Mm.
Uh, People may take it in a different. Obviously, many people take it in a different way, but I've dealt with many people in my past life with New Yorkers especially, and they have a tendency to be very straightforward and tell you like it is. And I
Mm.
suppose President Trump personifies that.
Mm. May mga impressions that President Trump is closer to the former President Rodrigo Duterte than to President Marcos. Is there a
Well,
tinge of truth doon or
well,
baka naman wala?
I wouldn't really put it closer. President Trump is the president of the United States, so he will deal with any head of state, especially the Philippines, that he feels is important for the United States. So during the time of President Duterte, of which I was already here in Washington, D.C., he did
Yes.
tell me that he enjoyed being in Manila with President Duterte, and he even said that he sounded like Frank Sinatra. I don't know if people remember, but during the ASEAN dinner, of which President Trump was present,
Mm.
President Duterte actually sang, and he was telling me about it when I presented my credentials to him. So he
Mm.
says he sounds like Frank Sinatra.
Mm.
So he knows President Duterte, obviously, and now with President Marcos, it's a different kind of knowing him because he met President Marcos when he was still going to school in New York because he used to go with his mother in New York City. So there are these personal relationships that obviously President Trump is very aware of, that he believes in personal relationships, and that's the reason why many leaders from all over the world would like immediately to meet with him in person.
And do you think this personal interaction with the current president somehow could be harnessed? No, that's a good starting point
Yes,
to
absolutely.
develop something better when it comes to Philippine-U.S. relations.
Definitely, definitely. President Trump, I think, is a person who, exactly what I said, is very straightforward. And it is best when you have a straight talk that you talk in person, hindi yung by telephone, or by ito yung usapan lalaki, so to speak. No? And I think that President Marcos will be able to handle that very well. Dahil he too has dealt with the Western world almost all his life. So I can see that, and I can very well say that I think President Marcos will get along with President Duterte, with President Trump, because they both technically went to school in the same school. President Marcos went to Wharton, and also President Trump. So they already, in fact, during the conversation, they talked about that a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about this fear or concern by a lot of people regarding the immigration policy of the president. Siyempre, matagal na naman yung pinag-usapan ito, no? Of course, he seeks an end to this birthright citizenship dyan po sa United States. And I remember before he assumed office, you laid out a plan for Filipinos who might be affected. No? Can you talk about it? Are we
Well,
ready for this new policy by the U.S. president?
Well, itong birthright is something internal. I think that it's an executive order that President Trump signed, I think, on the first day or the second day in office. But now it's being contested in court. I think there
Yes.
are 20 states that have already filed suit against it because it's embedded in their constitution. So these things are going to have to be resolved, obviously, by the Supreme Court at some point in time. But that's the effect it will have with the Filipinos, is most especially those that are already here but are not documented. And if they give birth here, there is a question whether they can claim the child can claim to be a citizen or not. The chances are they probably will. But however, in the future, because I know that there is also a bill that is being formulated in the U.S. Congress, that they really would like to end this birthright citizenship. Because there are many people who come to the United States just to give birth here, which we know of course.
And enjoy the benefits of being a US citizen. Ganun yung ginagawa ng iba.
Yes, maraming ganun. Well, it's a natural thing. Why not? It's not only the Filipinos who do that. There are many, many countries who would like to have an alternative way of life.
Pero within the Filipino community dyan, across the United States, they have an idea. Do we have an idea how many might be affected by this new policy?
I would think that there will probably be, well, first of all, we have about 320 to 350,000 undocumented Filipinos living here in the United States. A large majority of that have been living here for such a long time. So perhaps they have a good legal path to become permanent residents if they start working on it using, they need to get a good immigration lawyer. But the bottom line is you really have to make yourself legal here, because sooner or later, these things like this will come up. And I think President Trump is very serious about it, mainly because they feel that talagang sumobra na yung number of people coming into the United States illegally. And the worst part is that they have committed a lot of, there are many criminals. It's really true. Totoo yan, because I was in New York not too long ago at marami nagsasabi sa akin dyan na talagang yung crime rate, most of this is committed by illegal alien or illegal immigrants.
And this resounded among the voters, which is among the reasons why they went for Donald Trump, no?
Absolutely.
Pero, opo. I remember before he assumed office, you advised undocumented Filipinos sa United States to pwedeng bumalik muna, di ba? Umuwi.
Well,
Parang hindi naman sila. What happened there?
Some people criticize me, masyado ka naman brutal, ganyan. Alam mo, it's not alam ko kasi marami akong kilala na were deported even before President Trump put up this new immigration policy, na hindi na talaga makabalik dito. Humingi ng tulong sa akin at saka sa mga ibang ating mga kasama kung pwedeng tulungan makakuha ng visa. Pero once you've been deported, talagang maski anong gawin mo, maski sinong gamitin mong magpadrino para sa'yo, talagang nandun na yung pangalan mo, deported overstaying. Overstaying lang yan, wala ka pang ginawang really any major crime. It is a crime to stay in the United States illegally. Pero yan ang sinasabi ko, na kung talagang it's better not to be deported dahil may pag-asa ka pa makabalik dito, at saka you can do it the right way now. Yan ang aking laging pinapaayo sa ating mga kababayan, na kailangan tama ang gawin ninyo. Hindi pwede yung style na palusutan dahil talagang agrabyado ka talaga eh.
Pero may takers po ba? May mga voluntarily umalis when you after you give that advice?
Siyempre, hindi naman sila, they're not going to come out and tell us. Although we have some information that there are some people who've left the country because actually sila, nandito overstaying lang sila dahil they had tourist visa. Siguro isa o dalawang taon na lang sila dito. Yeah, yung mga yung mga taong that overstayed, talaga namang wala silang plano to migrate here. They just enjoy being with their families or whatever it is. So I think they've decided to do that precisely so that they can renew their visas.
Pero what happened dun sa ano? Sabi nyo, you were preparing a plan with the other officials ng Philippine Embassy in anticipation of this new policy. Ano yung plano nakalatag po for this undocumented Filipinos?
Last December, we had a full meeting of all our consulates. Na pumunta sila dito sa Washington, D.C. at pinag-usapan namin lahat ng mga anong possibilities, na anong pwede nating tulong na ibibigay sa ating mga kababayan na may problema sa kanilang status, no? At meron kami mga kinausap na mga groups, Filipino lawyers, no? Ang tawag nila FLAG, which is a Filipino Lawyers Association of the Philippines or something. And they voluntarily came to us and said, tutulungan namin pwede kami makatulong. First and foremost, gagawa sila ng kung ano yung mga rights na pwede nilang isalang sa kanila na pwede silang maiwan dito sa Amerika dahil meron silang certain rights. So yun ang unang-unang ilinabas namin yan sa aming website. The second one is kung meron talagang mga kaso dyan na pwede talagang may legal path sila, tutulungan nila. Kung talagang they cannot afford it, they will have people who will try to help them along the way to do the legal work to be able to help them. At yung mga iba naman na talagang hindi talaga may pag-asa to get a legal roadmap, di yun ang advice na binibigay natin na talagang umalis na muna sila. Para ganun, meron pa silang chance na gawin nilang tama yung gusto nilang gawin na to be able to have a legal status here in the United States.
So far, ilan po yung mga nakausap ng mga consulates natin?
Well, we don't have the figures right now. Alam mo, some of these things, of course, we have to keep confidential dahil, and rightly so, dahil siyempre ayaw rin nila malaman na talagang illegal sila dito. So we're also trying to help them in that sense, that we're just simply trying to give them the right advice. At siyempre, as the embassy here, hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin sa kanila, dito muna kayo, magtago kayo dito sa Amerika, ganyan. Dahil
Illegal.
we're conniving with that one. We want to have good relations. Yan ang trabaho namin dito, to have good relations with your host country. Hindi, marami nagsasabi, masyado kang pro-American. Trabaho namin yan to have good relations with your host country. Yan ang ating trabaho. So that precisely, pag meron tayong problema tungkol niya sa mga ganyan, especially pag nakadetain yung ating mga kababayan, pwede natin tulungan dahil pwede natin kausapin yung mga local authorities.
And I think, diba, ang commitment ng isang embahada, tulungan sila whether maski illegal, diba? It's your responsibility to help them.
You know,
Pero not to connive with them. Tama?
They're taking it the wrong. Some people have taken it the wrong way that we're just telling them to. Hindi ganun yan We're giving them the best advice that we can give them. Dahil inukonsulta namin yan sa mga, in fact, we consult even the authorities themselves. Ano ba talagang tamang pwedeng gawin? So ito yung sinasabi nila na kung talagang hindi sila pwedeng maging legal dito sa Amerika, mabuti na umalis na muna sila para merong pag-asa makabalik. Ngayon, kung talagang desidido sila to take their chances, yan ang wala tayong magagawa dyan. Ngayon, pag ma-detain sila for some reason or the other, dahil illegal nga sila, that is another part of what we have to do. Dahil meron tayong what we call assistance to nationals. No? We have an entire section of our Department of Foreign Affairs headed by Undersecretary Ed De Vega that is prepared to do what they can to expedite their processing to be able, dahil ultimately they will have to be deported anyway.
Pero dun sa priority list ng US when it comes to deportation or banishment ng mga illegal aliens, hindi naman yata nasa taas ang yung situation na overstaying, di ba? Ang priority yata yung mga gang members, criminals,
yes,
diba?
Definitely. Ang number one talagang priority nila, yung mga meron ng criminal record at saka criminal elements. At saka identified yan. At saka, tapos merong about 1,300,000 that have already been decided by the court that they are not eligible to stay in the United States. Tapos if you remember, doon sa speech ni President Trump sa inauguration niya, he declared cartels.
Yes,
as terrorist. Ngayon, pwedeng gamitin nila yan as a national emergency situation dahil they are actually a threat to the national security of the United States. Meaning to say, kasi marami talagang ini-smuggle dito galing from the south, na ang cartel ang may kagagawa niyan. It's a syndicate. Ini-smuggle nila, kinukunan nila ng pera itong mga kawawang mga tao, that refugees, at pinalulusot nila. Alam mo, there are so many gang really evil elements talaga. Lalo na yung mga babae, they rape them and it's really horrible. I'm not trying to be a do-gooder or anything like that. Pero pag naririnig mo yung mga storya na yan, naaawa ka at it's best that they really should be given an opportunity in a clean way. So hindi yung yung ganun na i-smuggle sila at mas lalo pa silang napaagrabyado eh.
Mm. Pero isa yatang ano po, no, unintended consequence nito ay yung possible profiling ng mga legally nandiyan naman pero they just happen to have a different ethnicity. So, is there any effort to somehow minimize that possibility? Kunwari, Pilipino ka, legally nandiyan ka, pero because of this current political climate in the United States, baka unnecessarily ma-profile sila. Ikaw illegal ka, tingin ko illegal ka, mukhang gang member ka. Maski hindi.
Merong possibility na ganun. Pero kaya nga nandyan tayo. No? So when we find out something like that, dyan tayo nakakatulong sa ating mga kababayan. Lalo na kung legal sila dahil talagang meron silang certain rights. And so we use whatever leverage we have into making it right for them. If you remember, meron yung hate crime nga sa mga Asians. Marami sa ating mga
Yes.
kababayan na medyo sinaktan, lalo na sa New York.
Yeah.
Diyan talaga, we were very strong with the government. Talagang we demanded that they be given protection. And in fairness to the government of the United States, talagang they went out of their way to also to find ways and means to protect. Dahil hindi lang Filipinos, marami mga iba. They just happen to have Asian faces. Talagang sinasaktan sila. So we, all of us, kaya tayo, we're a member of the ASEAN. Dito sa Washington DC, the ASEAN ambassadors are very united. We meet every month and twice a month, in fact, and we meet as a group, always with the U.S. government. 10 kami dito na we are very tight with each other in trying to work together for the good of the Asian region. In fact, I was just the chairman up to December last year, and now it's Singapore. We take turns every 4 months.
Rotating.
Yeah, every 4 months nagkakaroon ng chairman. And during my chairmanship, yan ang ginagawa ko. Marami kami mga meetings na ginagawa, lagi with the State Department or with any of the authorities here in the United States.
Meron pala kayo dyan parang mini ASEAN Summit sa Washington.
Oh yes, definitely. And that's very important, Christian. That's I always tell people that there is strength in numbers, and the ASEAN is a very, very strong group because remember we are 650 billion strong, and we are a big economic powerhouse. Dahil the Asian economy is now going up like anything. Kaya tayo hindi tayo, I mean, masama ang loob minsan natin pag nakikita natin countries like Vietnam are doing mas madami silang mga export ganun. It's a challenge for us. But at the same time, maski na papano, they're in the Asian region because at some point in time, like what we have now, the RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Cooperation, it's good for the entire economy of the Asian region. And there will come a time when we would be just one economy and we will be a force to contend with.
Okay. Let's move to the other issue. No? Marami mga nagtatanong dito. How would the US-Philippine relations be when it comes to China's threat under a second Trump administration? Okay? Siguro pag-usapan po natin muna yung assurance, I think, given again by the new Secretary of State of this ironclad support for the Philippines. Can you talk about that?
Oh yes, definitely. Si Secretary Rubio, even during his hearings, sinabi na niya talagang hindi niya, he even said something like, we cannot continue to allow China to harass our allies like the Philippines. Yeah. So, and in fact, they're even going further now by saying that itong mga ginagawa nila, there has to be consequences. Hindi na, ayaw na nilang pumayag na tatawa, sasabihin lang we condemn, ganun. Which many people are saying. In fact, sabi nga ni Secretary Teodoro sa akin, matagal na niyang sinasabi na hindi pwede yung lagi na lang pag meron silang intrusion sa atin, tinatawag lang natin sila, we send them a demarche. Our ambassador in Beijing just calls their attention. Hindi na pwedeng ganun. There has to be a consequence. At mukhang ganun na rin ang feeling with the new policy that the Trump administration will have in the Indo-Pacific region. Even if they want to have, which we also want to have, good economic relations, pero when it comes to the geopolitical situation, hindi tayo ayaw na natin pumayag at ayaw na rin pumayag ng ating mga allies kagaya ng Amerika at saka Japan at at Korea at other countries as well na hindi pwede yung binubuli yung mga bayan kagaya natin.
So there will be no change when it comes to this ironclad support by the US for the Philippines.
As a matter of fact, as I just said, it might even become the use of iron ram. Hindi na ironclad. Gagamitin na yung iron in a metaphoric way.
Yeah. Speaking of consequences, ano bang options dyan when it comes to consequences? Because that's true, no? Marami rin po ako nakakausap. Especially ordinary Filipinos, they're getting frustrated.
Oh, that is an operational thing. Actually, sa totoo lang, there is already a lot of that in place. These plans are already in place. Hindi lang natin ini-implement. The president, of course, is being as cautious as he can. Dahil, alam mo, si President Marcos really believes in peaceful way of resolving it. We stretch it to the limit, which is the cautious way of doing it. But there is also the other part where our military, our armed forces, together with armed forces of the United States. In fact, we have what we call the squad. Kasama dyan yung Australia, Japan, maraming bayan eh. Kaya akala nila, ang tawag nga nila squad. No? And they meet regularly. And in fact, there was a big exercise that they conducted in Hawaii that precisely is preparing us for any eventuality na talagang as a force, we will now repel any kind of continuing intrusion and bullying coming from China.
When it comes to military assistance, what can we expect from the second
Well,
Trump administration?
the military assistance, I think, will continue in place. It's just a matter of us now. In fact, I just had a meeting yesterday with the Democratic Senator Brian Schultz of Hawaii, who is very supportive of our the FMF, the FMF program, which was initiated by Senator Hagerty and Senator Tim Kaine. Senator Hagerty is a Republican, very close friend of the President Trump, and we have Senator Tim Kaine, who is sponsoring the $500 billion a year assistance to the Philippines. But what is important here, Christian, is that we tell them, or I tell them, that the message we give is that we are trying to upgrade our armed forces as quickly as possible dahil we're facing all of these challenges. And the reason for that, we're also putting up our own resources. Our own budgeting, which Secretary Teodoro spelled out, will also bump up our armed forces also even faster. Because we want to be ready in about 2 years to 3 years from now that talagang pwede tayong maging real partner ng US or iba pang bayan, that we are one in being able to pull our own weight. Kaya natin binibilisan yan. And this is important. At saka itong 500 million is good for the United States dahil at the end of the day, siyempre ayaw rin nilang sila kung may problema sa South China Sea, wala tayong laban, tatawagin natin sila. Kailangan meron tayong, we have first line of defense. At kung kailangan na talagang ipasok yung mga ibang mga allies natin, nandiyan sila. Pero hindi yung puro sila at saka wala tayong ginagawa. But this is also for our own good in the end. So we're really doing what we can to really put up the right kind of weapons for our armed forces.
Can you give more details about this $500 million a year assistance?
Well, as I said, this is a bipartisan initiative that is being done by Senator Hagerty and Senator Tim Kaine, which already, as a matter of fact, the first one is already been passed. It's just a question of working on the next succeeding ones, which is supposed to be for the next 4 to 5 years. This will greatly help us kasi itong 500 million assistance ito, hindi naman yan binibigay yung pera. No? Sige, bahala na kayo what you want. Hindi ganun yun. We're actually, this 500 million is more. In fact, the first salvo was to really put our security foundation, meaning to say yung ating mga cyber security is important. Dahil kailangan makamatch yan sa mga lahat ng mga equipment ng US. Alam mo, very sophisticated na ngayon. Technology plays a major role here right now. And for us to be prepared, kailangan meron mga whatever software or yung mga ganun, no? What we call the security, a general security to put together, which costs quite a lot of money just to prepare ourselves that in the event of any situation, we are in sync with the US. Communication,
Pati training.
lahat yan, the whole works. And that it has to come in phases. Ngayon, the hardware equipment, like possibly maybe more ships, or possibly, we're talking about F-16s. Lahat yan will fall. And it will all come in goods, hindi pera, which is good. So there is a minimal chance of any kind of suspicion for corruption or whatever it is. So kaya it will really be very helpful for us.
And I understand you also had a recent meeting, no? Kayo and Secretary Chidoro.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yes. Yesterday, the president instructed me to arrange for a meeting right away for Secretary Teodoro, who was in San Francisco. So he flew in yesterday or the other day, and we met with the National Security Advisor of President Trump, si Mike Waltz. So we had a very good meeting with him, but it was only a very short 15-minute meeting dahil he was being called already to the Oval Office. But just the same, mabuti na rin dahil the Deputy Secretary National Security Advisor, si Alex Wong, is in charge really of the Asian region. Yun, mahaba yung usapan namin at we were able to thresh out. Si Secretary Teodoro was able to thresh out everything that we were doing, what we want to do, and what the future will be like. And it was very reassuring. I'm very confident that talagang when it comes to our security alliance with the United States, it's as solid as it can get.
Pero when it comes to this harassment by Philippine vessels by the China Coast Guard, do you think this stronger pronouncements from the second Trump administrations could serve as a deterrent? Kasi pwede mag-saber rattle din itong China to show us that no, we're still here.
Well, alam mo, Christian, in any kind of in a rough neighborhood, so to speak, it's a question of really showing who has the biggest strength. And it is really in our favor that we have a lot of countries that are on our side. If you really count the number of people, a number of countries that are supporting not only the Philippines, but the entire Indo-Pacific region, to make sure that it remains free and clear from any kind of influence from any major country, I think we're in the right place. While because of our geopolitical or our geographical location, nandiyan tayo sa forefront talaga. And that's why the center of attention is in the Philippines. But we have to be grateful for the fact that we are really centered in the right place right now. And President Marcos is precisely his policy. He is not saying dito lang tayo sa Amerika. We are saying that kasama natin lahat ng mga bayan na talagang naniniwala na hindi pwede na itong area nito kontrolado ng isang bayan lang. Kasi diyan talaga magkakaroon ng problema. Remember, we're talking here about trillions of dollars of trade passed through to the South Pacific or the Indo-Pacific region. Hindi papayag yung mga ibang bayan diyan. And of course, yung ating mga kaibigan, matalik na kaibigan natin ngayon, yung Japan, they are concerned about it. And so that's why we're working together. Meron tayong tripartite agreement with them. So lahat yan is all geared towards preparing ourselves. So whatever posture a country like China wants to take, there's nothing we can do about it. We're always trying our best to try to reach out and trying to just say, why don't we just talk about these things so that we can resolve it? But if they want to take that posture, there's nothing we can do. But we have to be ready when the time comes. And I hope it will never really come because I think, quite honestly, sa totoo lang, I think with the advent of the new administration here in Washington D.C., see President Trump, as we discussed earlier, is a considered to be a strong leader. He doesn't mince his words, but he also is the type of person that will do what he thinks is best, not only for the United States but for countries that he feels is an ally, which is also in the end for the interest of the United States. If you remember, he did not hesitate to do what he did. For instance, he ordered the killing of the al-Baghdadi, for instance, because he was a threat to the United States. He ordered the killing of the general in Iran, knowing fully well that that was a calculated move, but he did it anyway. So he's not somebody that you can push around, so to speak. Dahil hindi nagbabluff eh. And I think that's the reason why many Filipinos look at him as a strong leader that will do what they think will stand up to any kind of bullying from other countries. And he keeps saying it. He's very open about it. That we are not going to be a country that people will take advantage of, or countries will take advantage of. So he calls out even his neighbors like Canada and Mexico. The reason why he's doing what he's doing right now, dahil ang tingin niya, these countries are allowing illegal aliens to come in, and also yung drugs like fentanyl. All of that is all the posturing that President Trump has is quite strong.
And of course, the neighbors are forced to adjust because he's threatening them with the higher tariffs.
Well,
Mapipilitan silang kumilos.
like I said, many people may not agree. If countries are affected, of course, they will say, why are you doing this? We're good neighbors, whatever it is. But, each country has their own interest to protect. Even we do. There are times when we will not agree with what the United States is doing, and we'll just have to stand our ground. Dahil bayan natin yan eh. We will have to stand our ground on any kind of issue that we feel is not going to be good for us. And that's why I keep going back to the fact that at the end of the day, if we can make ourselves strong enough economically and militarily, then we're in good shape. That is an objective that every country must have, that we must be able to take care of ourselves at the end of the day.
Okay. Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez, maraming salamat po for joining us today and for answering our questions. We hope to speak again and hopefully in person when you return to Manila.
Yes.
Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat rin, Christian. It's always nice to, as I said, your podcast is well watched here in the United States. Kaya it's an honor for me to be interviewed by you.
Salamat, sir. Thank you very much po for joining us tonight. Magandang gabi po dyan.
Thank you
po.
Thank you, Christian.
Yan po si Ambassador Babe Romualdez. Nakausap po natin dito po sa ating special Facts First episode. Nagsisimula pa lang po yung second Trump administration, and of course, antabayanan po natin yung mga susunod na mangyayari sa mga darating na linggo at buwan. In the meantime, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight. Ako po si Christian Esguerra. Magandang araw, magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat.